Hi, this is Virendra Singh from ToolsQA.com. I welcome you to class number 3 on Cucumber in Java. In this class, we will talk about the Gherkin basics. Now, Gherkin is the language that we use to write our feature files. In the previous class, we wrote one feature file. In that feature file, we used a couple of keywords like feature, scenario, given, when, then. Those keywords belong to the Gherkin language. So let us understand what Gherkin is, and let us understand what are the different keywords that are available in the Gherkin language. Now before that, let me just quickly take you through the agenda today. The agenda of the class is, the first thing that we will learn is to add a Cucumber plugin in Eclipse. Now this plugin is good. It is required uh, to have certain visual differences in your feature file. Right now, if you look at your feature file, if we go back, if you look at your feature file, it is pure text file. There are no different colors for the keywords. So using this plugin, we will be able to see differences in the way this feature file is shown to you. Once you install the plugin, these keywords, they will get highlighted with different colors, and also if you enter something wrong in the feature file, you will get an error marking there. You will get a warning message there. So that plugin will help us in writing proper feature files, and it will help us in having a better look at the feature file. Now that is the first thing that we will do. After that, we will talk about what Gherkin is, and then we will talk about what is the idea of using Gherkin language, why do we want to use Gherkin, and then we will end up with learning about feature and scenario keyword. Now these are the two keywords we have already used. So let us jump into the class. But before we go into the class, for those people who have just started from this class, I would request them to go back and go through the tutorials earlier, because if you don't know what we discussed in the earlier classes, you may end up being confused here. So please go through the videos from the previous classes. So let us see what the first topic is. The first topic is the Cucumber Eclipse plugin. Now I explained you why you require this plugin. You want this plugin because you want to have better highlighted feature files, and you want to have IntelliSense around, not exactly IntelliSense, but you want to have the facility to see error messages or warning messages if you write something wrong in your feature file. So you would require the Eclipse plugin. Where to get it? You can get it from this URL that I have mentioned here, and how to get it, I will just show it to you on the screen. So just go back to your Eclipse project. We are here in the project that we created in the last two classes, and in this project all you have to do is just click on help and go to install new software, and there here you just have to type in the URL. So I will just pick up the URL. This is the URL. I will pick it up, I will add it here, and once you add it here, you should get an option like this in the window, in the small window below. Just select the one at the top level checkbox, and click on next. So once you click on next, it will start downloading, or it will start understanding what is it that is required to install this plugin. So it may take a few seconds or more, but it's a very small plugin, so it should be downloaded and installed on your machine quickly. So it will take you, once it has calculated the requirements, it will take you to the next screen. Just click on next there, accept the terms and condition, and click on finish. So once you click on finish, it will start downloading and installing the software, and during this process it will give you a pop-up uh, of unsigned content. This is exactly the pop-up that I'm talking about. So in this pop-up it says that there is a security warning. The content of the plugin is not signed, so you have to either accept it or cancel it. So don't worry about being signed or unsigned. Just click on OK and move ahead. So it will take a few seconds. So what I will do, I will pause the video and I will see you on the other side. Alright, so after a few seconds you will see this window on the screen which says that basically it means that your plugin was installed and you just need to restart your Eclipse. So just click on yes and it should restart your Eclipse in a few seconds. So meanwhile Eclipse starts, I always suggest that you should have that plugin installed on your Eclipse setup. This will help you see the feature file in a different way. Also, it will help you um, avoid any kind of errors that you might create if you write in a plain text file. So that way, it will help you give feedback. It will help you by giving you feedback whenever you type something wrong out there in your feature file. So Eclipse is coming back up again, and let's see what we get this time in the feature file. And there we go. So once Eclipse starts, you would see no difference here. That's understandable. So just close this. Go back to your features folder. Right click on the feature file and say open with the editor. This is the option that you want to select. Just click on that, and once you click on that, you would see that now the feature file is a little different. You have all the scenarios properly annotated. So you can see that all your keywords are properly annotated now. If you add new keywords, the new keywords will also be annotated properly. So when you say when, this is step 1, and then you say then, you can see that when and then uh, are also uh, properly annotated with the blue color, right? So similarly, if you do some error there, you would get an error message right on the feature file. It will tell you what kind of error it is. So it says that lexing error on line 5. This is line 5, so it says that there was an error on line 5, and it will try to explain the error to you. Now we can quickly see that the error is that we have annotated line 5 with the colon. So we will just remove that. Once we do that, everything should be fine. These messages will remain there, these warning messages, because we have just created our scenario step. We haven't created the step definition. That's why they will remain here. I will leave this here. Don't worry about the messages that you're getting right now. We will come back to it and we will understand it properly. Now let us quickly go back to what we have in the slide. Let's move on to the next item in the slide. The next item says what is Gherkin. So in this slide we will understand what basically Gherkin is. To understand it, let us go back to our feature file and let's see what this feature file is exactly doing. At this point in time, it's not uh, probably the best looking feature file, uh, and probably does not have the best looking text inside a feature file, but it is enough for you to understand what Gherkin language is. So if you look at your feature file, let me expand it. If you look at your feature file, the feature file is plain English. You can see that it's all English right now. But writing a test in English might be confusing for everyone, including the automated tool called Cucumber. The reason is that if you write in plain English, it will be hard for people to understand the different structures involved inside your test. So to give an example, let me just open a notepad. In the notepad, let me just say that let me just write a scenario. This is login functionality, and then after that I would say verify that user is able to log in, and then I say go to home page, click on my account link, enter username and password, and then if I say click on login, and user should log in. Now if you look at it, this is a scenario that you would probably write on a notepad, but right now it lacks some things. For example, just by looking at the text, I'm not able to figure out what this line represents. So what is this line? When you say this is a login functionality, what does it mean? Does it mean it's a functionality area? Does it mean that it is just a description about something, or is it just a random comment here? So we are not able to figure out what it is. Similarly, when you write something like verify that a user is able to log in, uh, it's quite vague. We are not able to identify why this line is here and what does it mean. Is it the scenario description, or is it the heading of all the scenarios that are about to follow? And just by looking at the text file, we are not able to understand what exactly it is trying to do. By reading the text, we might figure out that it is a test case and these are the steps of a test case, but this is not explicitly mentioned in the text file. Now that is the exact problem that we are trying to solve. We are trying to give a structure to your tests, and this structure is given to you by the Gherkin language. And how Gherkin language gives you this structure? It gives you this structure by introducing certain keywords. To name a few, the keywords are feature, scenario, outline, given, when, then. There are quite a few keywords that we can use from the Gherkin language, but for the time being, just concentrate on the two keywords, which are feature and scenario. So look, going back to this text file, we are lacking a structure here. That structure is provided to us by the Gherkin language via keywords. So keywords are the main components of the Gherkin language, and that's all. Gherkin language just has keywords which can help you structure your test scenario. So if you now look at the same scenario or a similar looking scenario, you can easily figure out, or let us just modify this scenario to make it more meaningful. So if I say that this is basically the feature, and if I say this is basically a scenario, and then if I say when click on my account, given user enters username and password, then. So we now have a structure. We can see that uh, this particular line is basically a feature, and this particular line is basically a scenario description. And these lines, they are basically test steps or scenario steps, because they fall in the when, given, and then keywords. So these are basically scenario steps. So eventually what we have achieved is that we have achieved a structure. Now this structure, now this is an important point to remember. Giving the structure to your feature file or to your scenarios helps us in two ways. First of all, whoever, any human, if he's trying to read your feature file, he or she would be able to make perfect sense out of it. He or she should be able to easily find out that, okay, this is the feature description, this is a scenario, and these are the steps of a scenario. So it's quite visible to to a human who's reading your feature file. At the same time, it is very important for the tool Cucumber. Now it is important for the tool because based on these keywords, it identifies different components of your feature file. So to find out what the feature is all about, the tool will start looking for the feature keyword, and it will take the lines in front of the feature keyword as the feature name. Right. And similarly, if it has to find the number of scenarios, it will find out all the scenario keywords in the feature file. And that way it will be able to find all the scenarios in your feature file. And the line after the scenario, just after the scenario, will be taken as the name of the scenario. So this is how you can define, this is how Gherkin language can help you create a structure, define a structure in your feature files, and at the same time help uh, help people and Cucumber understand your feature file, thereby increasing the readability of the feature file. So that is why we use Gherkin language. So those were the two important points which are exactly mentioned here in the slides as well. So we will move on to the next slide. The next slide, uh, it talks about the structure that the Gherkin language gives you, uh, and it talks about a couple of other things. which you should pay attention to while building up your feature files. So the very first thing that you want to pay attention to while building your feature file is that you should write your scenarios with concrete examples. Right, there should be concrete requirements which has concrete data mentioned in it. So what I mean by that, let's say I write a simple scenario saying that verify that user cannot log in via invalid username. Right. This seems to be a fine example of a scenario, but this example is ambiguous. Now, why is it ambiguous? The first thing that it lacks is that it does not give you the exact meaning of invalid username. So what exactly is an invalid username? Does it mean a blank username is invalid? Is a blank username invalid? Is a username with special characters invalid? So what exactly is invalid username? So what it means is that this basic scenario that we have shown here lacks a concrete example in it, a concrete sample data in it. So the very first thing that you want to pay attention to while creating a feature file is that try to make your scenarios as explicit as possible. So the word is explicit. So try to make it as explicit as possible by giving uh, data to it or by mentioning the exact data that will be required in the scenario. So that is the first thing that you want to pay attention to. Now, second thing, which is basically which I want to mention is basically why exactly having a concrete example or why exactly expressing your tests in English is important. Now, consider a situation where you are with your stakeholders who are basically the owners of the application. Now, when they read your scenario, had it been a poorly written scenario in random text file, then the user will might not be able to associate with the scenario, right? The user will not be able to vision or basically the user will not be able to vision how the application will work in a given scenario. So to make your user understand that in a particular scenario, this is how exactly the application will behave, will help him understand the application. At the same time, it will help him visualize how the application should have behaved in certain other scenarios which you haven't covered yet. So that way it will engage the user or the stakeholder more with your scenarios, and it will help you get more valid scenarios or I would say valid requirements for your application, thereby having a better set of requirements to start programming your application. So that is the second thing that you want to keep in mind. Let's go to the next slide. And the third thing that we have already discussed is the readability part. We want to have the whole idea of Gherkin is to make your tests more readable. Uh, that way it is easy for everyone to understand the tests in your team. So everyone, be it from a technical background or a non-technical background, they will be able to understand your tests properly. Now, what are the benefits of it? We have explained the benefits also. The most important and notable benefit is that by having the ability to express scenarios in English, stakeholders most of the time who are non-technical people, they get an opportunity to see your scenarios and then come up with their own scenarios, and it helps them to visualize the application in a better way, which is always good, trust me, because it will help them have better requirements in the start only. And when you have better requirements and concrete requirements, to be precise, then you can code your application properly. Now, moving on to the next part of this tutorial. The next part talks about the feature keyword. We have already used it. Let us understand it now. So basically a feature keyword, I will go back to uh, the feature file. So I will remove it and I will start afresh. So what is a feature keyword? every every time you create a feature file, you create it for a particular feature. For example, here we created a feature file for the login feature. So when you create a feature file, the very first thing you would want to do is tell the name of the feature. So you start with the feature keyword. All the feature files will start with the keyword and after the feature keyword colon. So all the feature files will start with feature colon. And after that, whatever text you enter in the same line becomes the name of the feature. So if I say this is a login feature, so what happens is that this becomes the name of the feature for the login.feature file. So you have to just specify the name of the feature that you are about to write scenarios for. So I would simply say login feature for demo QA, demoqa.com, and there you go. I just have created a feature. I just have created a feature name for myself. Now let's go back to the slide, and this is exactly what it is saying. It says that each Gherkin file begins with a feature keyword, and you can have the feature keyword. The syntax of the feature keyword is this: feature colon, and after that, the text that you want to represent for the feature file. Now, the second thing that you want to pay attention to is that the feature file, so the first line following the feature keyword or the text following the feature keyword becomes the name of the uh, feature file, or I would say the name of the feature. But when you press enter, the lines after it becomes the description of the feature. So basically this is the name, and what I'm about to write in the new line becomes the description. So I can say that I can write elaborate text for the feature so that anyone who's reading this feature file can exactly understand what it is all about. So I would write something really meaningful here. So I would say this feature is very important for demoqa.com. In this feature, we will test all the login functionality, login related scenarios, and then I can go ahead and write or provide more information about the feature. For example, I can give reference documents, I can give owners of the feature, and then I can even go ahead and point out uh, the wireframes and other, or basically the wireframes, they come in the reference document. So I would say reference documents, reference or wireframe documents, and then I can even write down the sign-offs that were given, sign-offs for this feature that were given to have this feature on board. So basically, this is a good place for you to add up all the information about the feature, which can help us get more details about the feature if anybody is reading it. Now, what this also means is that your feature file is basically a living document. Uh, it's a living document of your feature. It's a proper documentation of your feature. So use it properly, write all the information that is required. Don't worry about the fact that it might get bloated up. Don't worry about it, but just try to be precise about what you're trying to mention here, and try to give more details if possible. So I will repeat what we learned here. The feature keyword is the first keyword that you will see in your feature file. The syntax of the feature keyword is feature colon. The line immediately following the feature keyword becomes the name of the feature, and the text that follows in the new line after the feature name becomes the description of the feature. So that's pretty much it about the feature keyword. Let's see what we have next. In the slides, we are just talking about the same thing. The next keyword that we will, so here we have just reiterated what I have taught you a few seconds ago. It says that a feature is a good place to express the requirements in details, add references like documentation, URL, wireframes, contacts, etc. And then, yeah, then this important point that I missed, a feature cannot start from scenario background or scenario outline words. So you cannot have, so make sure that when you have the feature keyword, you don't end up writing something like scenario, because if you write scenario, it would mean that your feature ended here in this space, and whatever is following the scenario keyword falls in the scenario. So this will automatically become the scenario name, and this will become the scenario description. So if you use scenario keyword, it will just mess up your feature file. So don't immediately use the scenario keyword after the feature keyword. We will see when to use the scenario keyword. Similarly, there are two other keywords also. For example, you cannot use the background keyword just immediately after the feature, and then there is a scenario outline, this keyword. You cannot even use this keyword after the feature keyword. You can use them later on, but not immediately after the feature keyword. We will learn how to use these the other keywords in the coming classes. So that's pretty much it. Let us see what we have next. The next keyword that we're going to talk about is scenario keyword. Now scenario keyword basically represents a test case. So you write a test case, it becomes a scenario in Cucumber. So the syntax of writing a scenario is basically the keyword scenario. So you can simply say scenario and then put a colon. So it becomes a scenario keyword. There you go. It is. So now this is the important part of the plugin that we installed. So it properly annotates your uh, keywords. So had I made a mistake here, for example this, it wouldn't have annotated the keyword properly. That would mean that you would easily understand that we have made some mistake here. So you can correct that, and you can have the scenario keyword like this. Syntax is scenario colon. Now, just like the feature keyword, the line immediately following the scenario keyword becomes the name of the scenario. So for example, you can say login with invalid, login with invalid username. Right? This becomes the name of the scenario. This is not a proper scenario, but you can have a better name for the scenario. Similarly, if you press enter, the line following the scenario would become the description of the scenario. So here you can express more details. So you can say verify that user is not able to log in using a username with special characters. Right, simple as that. So it becomes the description of the scenario. Just like the feature keyword, the line immediately following this, the text immediately following the scenario keyword in the same line becomes the name, and the text following the scenario keyword in a new line becomes the description of the scenario. And that's pretty much it about the scenario keyword. Here we have explained the same thing. It says that scenario marks the start of your test case. It is basically a concrete example of behavior of your application. So it's basically a test case given some precondition how the application should behave. It should point out how your application should behave in a given specific condition. A scenario keyword can be written like this. You can have the scenario colon keyword, and after that the description, the name of the scenario, and in a new line the description of the scenario. So in this class we learned about a couple of things. We talked about how to install a Cucumber plugin. We talked about what Gherkin language is and how it can help us give a structure to your feature files, and then we also understood why that structure is important, because it makes your feature file more readable, and at the same time it helps Cucumber identify different components of your feature file, and thereby it enables Cucumber to automate your feature files. So that was the second part that we learned. And then we also learned about the two keywords, feature and scenario. We talked about how we can write a feature keyword and then give the name to the feature and description to the feature. At the same time, we also learned how to write a scenario keyword and then give it a name and description. So this is how you can simply create a feature file. There are other keywords also, because at this point we are missing the steps of the scenario. In the next class we will see how to write the steps. But before we leave, just let's do a quick run. Go back to your source folder, go back to your test runner, right click on it and do a run as, run as JUnit test. So when you do that, it should run your feature file and it should give you the exact things that we have mentioned here. So here it says that it had it found 0 scenarios and 0 steps. Well, that's strange. Why it found 0 scenarios? But let us see. So in the test results window, just click on, it's a JUnit test result window. Just click on the results. So it says that it had one scenario, and the scenario had a name called login with invalid username and password. Right. So we were able to successfully create a scenario today. Uh, Before that, we were able to create a feature file, and in the feature file, we were able to add a scenario. In the next class, we will add scenario steps. So see you in the next class. Thank you for going through this video.